We're up to our entire interview with Billy Bob Thornton, the famous actor, but also let's remember Billy Bob started as a musician. That's what he was in the beginning. He calls himself an accidental actor. He kind of fell into it. Well, he's really good at it, but he's also really good at music. In this whole segment, we talk about mental health more than anything. As I Ever Was is the single that they all helped out on with the singer-songwriter from Canada, Tasha. JD Andrew, who was Thornton's songwriting partner and partner in the band the Boxmasters, is in this one. And they all talk about when they realized things weren't right in their life. The Boxmasters, Billy Bob Thornton, JD Andrew, and a great new singer-songwriter you should know a lot about, Tasha. On Rock History Book. Tell me how you connected with Tasha, both of you.
Well, we have a friend named Robin Flans, who's a rock journalist, a music journalist, who approached me about the project and wanted to know if JD and I, as the Boxmasters, would be interested in producing a song on one of the subjects that Future Youth Records is doing. And she gave us, a list of various subjects, and we're pretty close to the mental health crisis that's going on in the world right now. And said, well, that would be a really good one to do. And we said, well, what about, who are the artists? So she showed us a video.
Let's get some water.
Okay, baby, don't worry. And so without her, I'd be lost. But one way or the other, so yeah, that's awesome. And then we looked at this video that Tasha had already done with two other girls. And I said, we're pretty interested in Tasha here. And she happened to have this song. And we listened to the song. It's like, yeah, wow, that's awesome. So it was right down our alley. And so Tasha came in with Jason and Robin and a crew of other people involved in the project. And we were wanting to make this into a very organic record for her. Where JD and I essentially were, producers, although Tasha doesn't need a producer. She's amazing. But we actually played the instruments, JD and I, and then just did some vocal passes with Tasha till we got the one we wanted, and it was amazing. And we're just proud to be a part of it,
And JD, what about your perspective for this fine young lady?
Well, Billy he had been talking to Robin about the project for a while, and basically just told me, hey, we're going to record a song with, this girl. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, fun. But he sent me the song, and I remember listening to it for the first time, and just, it's like, okay, listening to a girl and a piano. And we got to the chorus, and I was like, oh, damn. We've got that. This is something. And I remember getting really excited about it because, okay, this is a song that's going to catch people's attention. And, it's just, even without the use of the colorful word, in the chorus, the chorus was so strong that it's like, okay, people are going to, even if they don't know what the song is really about, they're going to, grab onto it and be excited and enjoy the song, just for a pop song, sort of a thing. And so, hearing it in that, early, piano and vocal version, really gave us, some ideas. It's like, okay, what are we going to do here? And the great thing was that we were able to just do what we do. And, we didn't really change our sound that much to suit her. It's just she kind of fit into our puzzle kind of perfectly. So, So we were able to do what we do best, add Tasha into that. And I think, if things were like they used to be when we grew up, this would be a hit song with no doubt, like instantly. And, sadly, that's not how the music business works anymore. People aren't going to be, you know, hearing this song the way that we did when we grew up, having, top 40s and all that, countdowns and all that, because this would be at the top of the charts if things were as they were. But hopefully people hear it, because it is great. And, we loved recording with her and, getting to hang out with her here like this, because we're big fans of Tasha.
Well, with the, growing up in the 70s, I'm 63, growing up in the 70s, I used to hear things like, oh, your dad forgot to take his nerve pills. And as a kid, you don't know what that means, right? And the press release says it, and it always has to be said, and it can't be said enough, that mental health is this thing that isn't talked about. Every family has dealt with it, whether you're in a high pressure job, which Billy, of course, you are. And I know your past of how you dealt with it, but tell me about your own perspectives on mental health.
I grew up with a few things and still deal with a pretty severe anxiety disorder, and sometimes bordering on agoraphobia, and pretty severe OCD and things like that. And when I was a kid, they didn't have programs, names for things. I didn't find out I was severely dyslexic until I got like in my 30s and heard about it. And when I was in school, I just thought I was stupid, which may be true, but not for the reasons they say. I'm usually stupid in decision making, but it's something that a lot of people deal with, and more people than you might think, because a lot of times people are afraid to talk about it. So I think the more people are made aware of it, and like Tasha said, the more compassion people have for it, and to take that stigma away, because it's just a thing that some people have, and there are various reasons for it. And I think if you could clear up a lot of mental health problems in the world, you would clear up a lot of other problems in the process. And I think art is, as Tasha said earlier, is a very good way to do this, because it's a way of communicating where maybe you're not able to communicate it to people just in a classroom or a conversation or something. Maybe you're too shy to do it, or too afraid to do it, about what people think about you. But if you do it in the form of a song or a painting or whatever it is, I think that's the way you can reach people. That way they can discover it for themselves. And so I think what they're doing with Future Youth Records and people like Tasha is a great thing. If you're not using, in other words, people can make speeches all day long at award shows or wherever they are about their causes and everything, but until you start getting it out there through the actual art, I don't think it works as well, because people don't want to feel preached to. They want to feel that they've learned something through, they've discovered something, and then I think they can jump on the bandwagon easier that way, other than, finger pointing and all that kind of stuff. So we're very honored to be a part of this, and very honored to be a part of this particular aspect of what they're doing in the mental health world.
Yeah, mental health. I mean, I've gone through quite a mental health challenge in the last few years, but even before that, as a kid, I think back on times when I was like pretty little, and I didn't know what I was feeling. I didn't know what these thoughts were and what was going on. And I fought with it all through my teen years. And I had no words for it. There was no, there was more conversation than, you guys grew up with, but there still felt like a huge lack there until maybe the last 10 years or so. So for a good chunk of my life, I was just confused and felt surely like something was very, very wrong with me. And I think that's part of, the awareness. I mean, it's changed the amount of awareness that we have now, which still is not enough, but the conversation, the stigma ending now has already made such a huge difference on my life in such a short amount of time, that it just tells me even more that we just need to keep going with this further and further and further. And I think art's the way to do it. And I think compassion and talking honestly and speaking openly and being transparent about what we feel and think and not demonizing ourselves. You know what I mean? I think that will go a long way in the public in terms of changing the conversation with mental health and continuing it.
Guys?
I mean, mine sounds, so much less substantial, but I've been a very strong proponent of the you take a little pill in the morning and it kind of just makes the makes the chest stop hurting, makes but I've had anxiety issues for a long time as well, and like growing up, if you don't know what it is, you try to kill it with other things, alcohol, nicotine, all of those things that are, really bad for you. You try to, medicate yourself in a way. And so, it took a long time for me to discover that, there are other things you can take that make that need, go away. And so, there's and thankfully it's like my kids have the same thing, so it's like they're able to get help, when they're, really young, that helps them, deal with the issues that they're having. So, two of my kids are basically on the same stuff I am. And it's like I see it really working for them. And if they didn't have it, it's like they can't learn. It's like they're so shut down. They're suffering from so many problems with the anxiety, and it just makes it so that they can't learn. They go hide in a corner, and kind of sit there and freak out. And just getting them a bit of help and seeing the doctor really has made it so that they can go through school and not have issues, and they're learning and thriving in school. But it took a bunch of appointments. It's like, okay, what's their issue, what's really, what's the problems. And it's the same thing I had to do. It's like, trying something, and it's like, okay, this is okay, but it's not working the way that I need it to. Let's try something else. Or eventually you land on your formula, and it's my formula is Zoloft, and it's a really helpful pill that that I'm able to take every day, and it just kind of takes the edge off, and it makes it so it's like I'm not frantically chain smoking, trying to calm the nerves or anything. So it's like my health is so much better, and my mind is so much better, just being able to knock down all of that anxiety. And I'm really thankful that I'm able to do that.
You guys had mentioned something that running a classic rock YouTube channel. Everyone I talk to is 10 years older, like I said, and every one of them, every 5 person or 10th person might have known or passed by Jimi Hendrix. I talked to Jack Bruce's son the other day from Cream, Malcolm, and I said, well, what problems did Jack have? Like, this is an entertainment side of it. And he says, well, my dad obviously had addictions and he did all that, but he says, we're talking dual diagnosis stuff, which happens a lot in entertainment, but it happens a lot everywhere where you have a disease and you have an addiction, which is a thing that's almost normal because they know they might know they have an addiction, but they may sometimes don't know they have the disease. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So getting back to the music, are there other steps to this? I mean, Mental Health Day, the whole thing is, I'm such a believer of this. Just before I came on, my wife said, "Do you take your Cipralex?" I'm going, "Oh, forgot, honey." I mean, there you go. I'm very open about it, but it's such a taboo subject for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. I've been actually thinking about, because I've suffered with it so long, and I've pretty much done it, you know, on my own, although my family understands it very well. And I also had people who suffered with different mental health issues in my family over the years since I was a kid. And so I think I'm about to try cognitive therapy, which I've heard is really, really good. And it's like I didn't really want to just go to like some therapist or whatever, because I've never really, I didn't want to start talking like that to my friends. But they say cognitive therapy is it's a different approach to this that's actually palatable, So I think I may try that. And my daughter is very shy and has some anxiety issues, and I think we're going to go together and actually try to alleviate some of it, because once you live with it for so long, sometimes you don't know it's as bad as it is, but it takes energy every day, especially when you have obsessive compulsive disorder along with an anxiety disorder. At the end of the day, you're exhausted, emotionally and mentally, and sometimes physically. So, it's taking a toll sometimes more than you even know yourself, And so, I mean, I started meditating a few years ago, and I didn't follow anything on from a show or anything like that. I came up with my own version of it, and I don't get out of bed in the morning until I've done it, until I've done my version of yoga and my version of meditation. And a lot of obsessive compulsive disorder is people who feel like they have no control in their lives, and they're trying desperately to have some. And so I am completely and solely in charge of protecting the entire world, just so you know. And so you guys really need to count on me, because everything I do, I'm doing. If I straighten out those magazines and get everything perfect, and if I do these geometrical configurations on the roof of my mouth and my tongue, I helped you out that day. Remember that. But anyway, joking. But
can I just ask all three of you, and I think it's important for this clip, when did Billy, you mentioned something, because sometimes you have it and you don't know, and it starts creeping in. It's that old, when it's two things. Sometimes sometimes it's, when did I stop doing that thing that worked so well for me? When did I stop? How many months have been? And or you go into a place where you go, this is not normal. Sometimes it's when you start feeling better, but when did all three of you know you were able to catch it and going, okay, something's going on here? At what age?
I had to go back and look at it. In other words, I didn't remember, when did this start? But I know the obsessive compulsive disorder, I can remember it as early as 11 or 12. And it was when I lived in a kind of an abusive household. So, well, not kind of. And so I remember watching the clock when I was that young. That's my first memory of being aware of doing stuff. I'm sure I did it before that, but I would watch the clock and see how many, let's say I knew when my dad pulled in the driveway. He was like clockwork every day after work. And I would look at the clock and let's say it's 5 till 4 or whatever. And I would say to myself, if I can count to 100 10 times before I hear the car in the driveway, everything will be okay. So that's my earliest memory of actually doing stuff that became much worse over the years. And as a kid, I was a stutterer or a stammerer. And once I knew there were various things that I had, I still do it when I get nervous, but that kind of went away once I started to understand I was a little different than maybe some of the people I was hanging out with. And all of a sudden I thought, well, and it's a weird thing to say, but it was almost like my own thing. I've got my own thing. I own this thing. It may be different and maybe weird or whatever to people, but I started to rely on it, and I guess try to talk myself into thinking I was special because I had some kind of different thing than they did.
Tasha?
Yeah, I mean, I knew around the same age, around 10 or something like that. I knew that I know it always kind of been pointed out to me that I would get very anxious over things, and I would get very stressed out over simple things, or overthink something or overplan something, and that was pointed out to me in probably not as kind of a way as maybe it should have been. So I was aware really young something was wrong, but then in my teen years, maybe when I was like 14 or 15, I was suicidal, and nothing, I mean, I had, everybody has their things going on in their life that it impacts them, but I didn't have anything going on that was so outrageous, when you think of what other people, experience and what go through in their life. I had parents fighting a lot. And that's a minor thing compared to some other things, or at least it's easy to say that. And that's when I realized, like, oh, I'm suicidal, and I'm pretty young and I haven't lived a lot of life yet. But it wasn't really until, so that was that. But then when I met my soon to be future husband, and we started dating, it was crazy because it went away, which was weird, and freaky. And it went away for a long time until it came back. Yay. But I just felt like, I don't know, I guess I felt like I had a spot in the world. I felt so understood, and I felt like somebody, had my back. And it just totally changed my own thought process, of how I see the world and how I see myself. And it was incredible. And then I kind of relied on that it was now gone. And I had, for whatever reason, outgrown it or figured it out. And it turns out that that was not true. And after a year or so, it came back, and I still have my struggles. Thankfully, it hasn't been quite as consuming as it was before. But things happen in your life, and then it reminds you again, oh yeah, you still have anxiety and depression. Oh yeah, like you still have these things going on in your brain, and you still have to work on them. So I do CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy. I think it's fantastic, and I truly think that everybody in the whole world should do it, because it's made me so aware of the patterns I do in my life and the way I think about things and how they're toxic for me and how they don't, serve me at all. And I think I think it's fantastic. So that's been my journey.
Okay, I'll ask you about what's coming up for each one of you in a second. I'll wrap it up. But JD, what about you?
Mine, I didn't really know I just felt like everything was normal for the longest time. But, it's like, killing everything with alcohol and cigarettes. But then I did have a work situation where I worked with a person who seemed to try to kill everyone mentally. Like he was a real psychopath, honestly. I think he thrilled himself by seeing how he could mentally break people down. And he wasn't trying to do it to me, but I could see that he was doing it to everyone else around him that we were working with. And and it basically caused me to break. And I'd never experienced anything like that. That was I'd worked with a lot of very difficult people, in my career coming up, people that were hard to work for, and I did well at it. But this one person, just caused me to break down, and so that was when it was. It kind of just, like, it's like, okay, broke me open. And then it's like the things that I had been dealing with, for years, it's like, okay, it's like, now we can see kind of what's going on. And, I was able to, get some, medical assistance and, talk with some doctors, and, they helped figure, it's like, okay, this is the stuff you're dealing with, and here's how we can, work on fixing it. But it really took kind of a traumatic moment for me to, have everything just come open and figure out, it's like, okay, this is the problems, and, this is how we're going to deal with them. And, it was painful, but, we got through them. And then, thankfully, then, it wasn't too long, it was only a year or two after that I met Billy, and we started the band, and I was able to kind of all of a sudden take a different direction, in my life. Because before, I'd just been a recording engineer working with other people, and all of a sudden,
he called you in Billy, you called him in to work on an album, right? Just to basically, is that how it happened?
It was on my 4th major label solo record.
Yeah.
Called
Beautiful Door.
Yeah, and JD came in to finish up. My engineer at the time got this really cushy job that gave him all kind of benefits and stuff like that. And the only benefit I was giving him was staying up till 5 in the morning with me. And
mental health.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, JD came in through a mutual friend of ours, and just was working as an engineer finishing up this record with me. But before long, we realized that we thought alike, and we started the band just because we started recording some stuff together. And I think it saved both of us in a lot of ways, because the focus is, for 17, 18 years now, has been on this band, and it's really a great thing. And by the way, Tasha's song, which is amazing, and we're so proud to have played on it and produced it. If you look at most of our records, about half of them are about mental health in one way or another. So it wasn't our first rodeo in that world. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it happened with me and JD. Just kind of like minds, and love.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think about. I mean, even back on Beautiful Door, it's like Billy had a song called "Always Counting." And it's like one of the first songs we worked on. It's like, well, that's, an obvious OCD song, it's just, but then, yeah, every record of ours, Billy is working out, in the lyrics, working out what's going on in his brain. It's like some of them are, a mind on fire, things, it's just nonstop. And I've started calling his condition obsessive creative disorder, because we're writing every second basically of every day.
Before you guys came on, I was telling Tasha that I loved her version of Britney Spears' Toxic, but you guys redid Shel Silverstein, Sylvia's Mother, like you gave it, come on, I know you can, come on, Sylvia's Mother, I know you can. That's amazing.
Yeah, we kind of upped the tempo on that one. And we actually, it's the only song by someone else that we play live, and we play it a lot of times in our encore. Not every time, but sometimes we play it in the encore. And we were included on that Shel Silverstein record, which was a huge honor, of course, and
that's a whole story in itself with him. The fact that he did all these things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I interviewed Joel Diamond, who worked with Shel a lot, and Dr. Hook, and half the interview was about Shell. We just took off and stuff.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. By the way, someone sent me one of your videos because I have a rock channel on YouTube, and
Yeah, yeah.
someone sent me I gotta find it. Liar Like You, about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
One of our watchers sent me this. He says, well, you're starting the Canadian channel, and you should really. He said this. Listen to this woman's voice. No one sounds like her in all the right ways. Ta-da!
Wow.
That's how I start my
Wow.
interviews. There you go.
That's incredible. Oh, that's so cool. Wow,
By the way,
that's
your version of Toxic, holy
ooh.
snapping turtles.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. Yeah.
That
It's got a different vibe, you know?
Well, I always thought that was her. I mean, we're talking about mental health. I always
Mhm.
thought that was her best song, even when, as a radio guy, because I work for Bell Media in Vancouver,
Oh, cool. Okay.
even though I'm in Calgary. I've been working for them for 30 years, and we play a lot of Britney Spears.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
whenever Toxic comes on, there's a little boy in me just sparks up. Ooh, Toxic.
Oh, it's got such cool production to it too. The little sounds in there is like, yeah, it's a great song.
How did this latest project? How did this all come to fruition?
So I work with Future Youth Records, and I've worked with them on a couple projects, and they reached out to me and said, "Hey, like, would you like to write a song about mental health? I know that's important to you, with the Boxmasters." And I went, "Yeah." So yeah, I wrote several different songs, and this is the one they liked the most, and here we are.
I like a young lady who swears. Okay, I gotta say, I've tried every pill and I've read every book. I could so relate to this. Uh, and I called every friend, and I'm still fucked up as ever. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Is
Hmm.
there ever a thing there? Is there ever, because I mean, you got to be poignant and you got to be sharp because this is sharp. Was there ever a part of you that says, well, that F word, he needs to be in there?
Well, you know what? I was actually not sure if I was allowed to put it in there because it's a youth-based label, and I wasn't sure if that was the look that they wanted for it. So, I remember when I sent the song through, I said, "Oh, and here's the clean version." Like I made with just saying stuck twice. And his name's Jason, and he was like, "Absolutely fucking not. We have to say fuck. Like no way." And I think it ended up being a really great choice. I don't think the song would have worked as well without it. So yeah.
So tell me about the fruition of like writing the song. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I had like last year was a rough year for me. I had a lot of personal stuff going on, and I was in a really frankly poor state. And then we did this thing with Saltwater with Julian Lennon, and that pulled me out of like a deep funk. And I started writing a bunch of stuff, but every time I wrote something, it wasn't very good, and I was having such a struggle with it. Then they approached me with this. I had more struggles because now there's more pressure, and I ended up writing I think 5 songs, sent them to them, and they liked this song the most. But writing it was like it felt like torture, and then it came out just like in one go. And it was I don't know, it was a weird experience because when I wrote it, I just kind of got it out and I thought it was terrible. And then I like played it back for myself and I was like, I think this is fantastic. So it was like a weird process where I almost was like not, I was like in the zone and getting it out, but I had to be a little bit more passive with my you know what I mean, my brain a little bit. I had to turn it off and write from here. So it was an interesting process for sure.
Remember, if you want to donate to the channel, there are links in the description where you can make a PayPal donation. You can also join our Patreon and get early access to our videos. Like our videos, share them on social media, subscribe to the channel, and comment on them as well. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.